GT, stock Gen 1, stock 3650 transmission, untouched. Has a Ram HD clutch, I believe. The more basic you could go on the clutch on an NA setup, the better. Cable driven clutch. It's got Dakota digitals. I'll show you guys the car in a little bit. I'm just kind of wrapping it up. It should be ready by this weekend. Today is Tuesday, I believe. It's got down pipes, or what do they call it, like turn downs? Not down pipes, I'm tripping. It's got dumps or turn downs, whatever you want to call it. So it does get a little loud in here, a little rumbly. I personally don't like that, but that's what he wanted to run for now. He has torque arm and a panhard bar as well. Full maximum motorsports suspension, everything you can think of. Torque arm, panhard bar, subframes, K-member, A-arms, all that good stuff. CC plates and all that stuff. So I'm gonna set you guys up over here, and we'll just do a little bit of driving like usual. Maybe I'll talk, maybe I won't, I don't know, but I'll give you guys a walk around as well. So let me set you guys up, and I'll see you in a little bit while we driving. Before I forget, I don't know if you guys remember the pup I had a couple videos ago. She was tiny. This is her now. Her name is Peppa Pig. She just turned a year old, maybe like a week ago or so. She's a American Bully. It's supposed to be like a pocket. I can't remember. Anyway, here you go. All right, so here we have 87 GT. I think I've showed it to you guys very briefly in some of the other videos. When I got the car, I had worked on this car before. It just had the pretty much stock motor, had exhaust, like a intake manifold. I believe it had like a I can't remember, like an Edelbrock intake manifold and like cold air intake. I did some electric fans on it, and I just did some like couple little things it needed. He ended up selling all of his stuff. Like I always tell you guys, he sold all of his stuff. Motor, tranny, harness, booster, you know, things like that. Everything he didn't need, I actually went over there and I helped him pull the motor. And I told him, you know, keep this, you can get rid of this, get rid of that, whatever. And he got some pretty good money for it. If he watches, maybe he could tell you guys how much he got. And I think he was able to like pretty much buy the motor with that. And then obviously he had to purchase the rest of the stuff. But even on a stock Mustang, especially nowadays, dude, nowadays these things are extremely expensive. Everything, motors and transmission setup, like a motor and tranny setup, is a lot more expensive than what it used to be. Even 2 years ago, even a year ago, things go up. It feels like every month prices are rising on these things, or even the parts for them, or OEM parts, motors, T5s, pedal boxes. Pedal boxes used to be like 50 bucks. I bought them, you know, 15 years ago for 50 bucks. Nowadays, I see them selling for, doesn't mean, or I see them posted for 250, 350, 150, and you're not gonna find them at the junkyard. So again, prices are rising like crazy. A couple things before I forget. I know I was gonna do the pricing video. A few people actually have asked me for it recently, so I'm gonna work on that and try to post that up here pretty soon so you guys can get kind of like a parts list / pricing. And actually I wrote it all down on the little dry erase over there, and I didn't erase it for probably like 10 months. So much so that by the time I went to try to erase it, I had to use like a rubbing alcohol and stuff to get it off because none of it would come off because I had been there for so long, and I never posted the video. And even that, on the same topic, that was like 10 months at the most, a year ago, because I've only been in this house like a year and some change, a year and a half. That was I wrote that on the dry erase board like a year ago, and even then, the prices on that, I'm like, oh yeah, good luck getting that. I had put, okay, if you want a Gen 1, you can get it for $2,500 to $3,500. If you want a Gen 2, anywhere from like $4,000 to $5,000, $5,500. Yeah, those days are over for the most part, going off of like eBay prices. You could still get good deals here and there, and you know, some of those prices would still be relevant in today's market, but for the most part, I was just basing those prices off like what's readily available and consistently available, which would be something like eBay. So it has the JLT air intake with this nice little shield that I make. I'll explain that to you guys here shortly. It's got, if I get sidetracked on that, then I'll never finish telling you guys what it has, or I'll repeat it. So it's got stock intake manifold. It has BBK long tube headers, 3-inch X pipe all the way into the mufflers, and then dumps from there. I know I would probably rather run LX tailpipes or well, it's got the Cobra bumper, so at least some, well, I don't know how much more that exposes than the GT bumper, but you know, some tailpipes would be nice. For now, just for simplicity reasons, we ran dumps, and because it's got a torque arm and a panhard bar, which I'll get to now shortly. Back to the engine, or the drivetrain, I should say. It's got a stock 3650. A lot of people ask me about that. What transmission can you run if you want to go manual? The best option if you're just going to cruise the car, or if you're going to, you know, plan on doing donuts, you plan on just daily driving it, roll racing, whatever, or you plan on staying at naturally aspirated horsepower numbers, then the 3650 is more than enough. It's fine. It's more than fine, I should say. Even if you're making 800 horsepower, the 3650 is perfectly fine. Even if you're making 1,000 horsepower, the 3650 is perfectly fine. Now, you might say, no, it's not your trip. Okay, if you are daily driving, you know, regular driving, or even just sliding the car, meaning the car is not hooking up, it's not getting any traction, then yes, the 3650 will be fine. When you start hooking up, when you start hooking and booking, when you start running even drag radials or a grippier tire, then that's when the transmission will fail. Or if you're power shifting it, or if you're, I've never really had a problem with the, I know like the TKOs and the T56s, those transmissions are not meant to be shifted past like 5,000 RPM in stock form. Talking about stock form here. The 3650, I've never had an issue with that. Actually, I feel like the 3650 is far superior than the TKO, the TKX, or whatever it is, and the T56 Magnums. The 3650, in my opinion, from all of the experience I've had and all of the cars that I've drove, the 3650 shifts better. It doesn't make as much noise. And honestly, I trust that transmission more than the Magnums and the TKOs and all that. So 3650, stock 3650. Again, if you're going to make 1,000 horsepower, that's fine. If you're going to be beating it up, you know, putting drag radials on it and stuff, then yes, that is when you're going to start breaking parts. Even the red car that's out there, we had a stock 3650, took it to the track, and we made more than 10 passes with it and never had an issue until we were really trying to get that 10-second pass. We were so close, and then fourth gear went on it. So it was the best pass yet. It was going, I think it went 11.3 something. And that was just letting off after third gear and pretty much rolling out the last like 200 feet or something like that. It's on a 91 tune and on an E85 tune. Like an SVE/eBay radiator, dual fans, which again, I'll explain that here in a little bit too, kind of tied in with the air filter thing going on there. It's got the JLT larger air filter, cold air filter, more like a hot air filter or cold air intake. Obviously, it's going to have higher IATs than the stock airbox, but because the engine bay was done on this car, we decided to... Let me try and explain this issue here. The issue we were having on the dyno. When the electric fan kicks on, the car's at idle, the electric fan kicks on, and the air filter is catching all of the air that the fan is pushing this way. As you're driving, you know, the air comes through the vents, it goes in between the condenser, transcooler if you have one, and then radiator. The fans basically spin to where it flows in the direction of the air that's coming in as you're driving. But when the fans kick on, the air filter was catching all of that air, and it was causing the car to surge and kind of, you know, start stumbling a little bit and sound like it wanted to turn off. Simply by putting your hands underneath the air filter, obviously on the dyno, you're not gonna do this while you're driving, but covering up the bottom of the air filter with your hands was enough to make the problem go away. I covered it up with my hands, started idling fine. Removed my hands, started tripping out again. So that's why typically on NA cars, I like to run the stock airbox, because the airbox is pretty much blocked out. It's not gonna catch, you know, it's not gonna catch much air coming from the fan, any air coming from the fan, and it's not going to catch as much hot air from the engine bay as one of these will. But for fitment issues, I get it. You can't always run a stock airbox. Looks wise, maybe you think that the airbox is ugly or you don't like the way it looks. And in this engine bay, since the engine bay is done up and it has a shaved engine bay, we wanted to not run a stock airbox basically. So instead of, like I said, going back to a stock airbox, or instead of using a shield that would pretty much come, you know, sometimes they make them like out of the plastic material. When LMR did their Coyote Swap, they, that Capri they did, I believe, or Mercury, oh yeah, Mercury Capri, they made like a plastic shield that came around it and the top was, you know, fully exposed. The shield might help for IATs, but more than anything, I would imagine they used it for that issue with the fan. So rather than doing that, I went and bought a sheet of aluminum, and then I made these brackets, drilled a couple holes, made it look as nice as possible, and I think it actually came out really good. There's still enough space in between the filter and the shield to where it's not like I'm you know, in a sense, clogging the filter, blocking the filter to where it can't get anything from this area. I'm simply covering it up from receiving forced air from the fan, or what do you call it, turbulence from the air coming from the fan, and in turn that will cause the MAF to read all funky. When the car's at idle, the throttle body is barely letting any air through to keep the car on. You know, it obviously needs a little bit of air even at idle. Once you know, I imagine that if you were at wide open throttle, or if you're at freeway speeds or whatever, the fan turning on and blowing air towards the filter is not going to be a problem. But the PCM is asking for all that air because the throttle body's open, you know, the injectors are spraying, the spark plugs are sparking, all that nice stuff is happening. So in a situation like that, I don't believe, I don't think, in my opinion, or, you know, I'm not a tuner or anything, I don't think that air coming from the fan like that would cause too much of an issue. Now, again, when you're at idle and whatnot, then of course it's going to be a problem. If you have a race car, it's only a race car, a whatever car. If you're not daily driving it, then maybe that won't be an issue. But in this case, a street car that gets driven on the street, you're at a red light, whatever, your fan kicks on, your car's going to start tripping out. So this was a simple and extremely effective way to deal with that issue. And also, if it helps a little bit keep the IET down, then, you know, it's a win-win, which I really don't think it'll do too much because it's still going to suck in hot air from the engine bay. But that's another story. So if you guys want to see certain things, or, you know, you guys want me to do a video on a certain topic or certain issues you guys are having or whatever with your Foxbody, then let me know. Drop some ideas in the comments. This car should be going home here shortly, next weekend, I believe, or this weekend, I believe. I have a automatic 4-cylinder car out there. It was an automatic 4-cylinder coupe. It's a roller now. I got a 505 speed that's going to be going in it. Stock T5 with a stock, pretty much stock small block forward, a couple bolt-ons, and Pepper, relax, wait. And it'll have like a Vortex supercharger, I believe, on it. So I'm gonna do the whole 4-cylinder swap if that's something that you guys want to see. I know the last one I did kind of ended fairly quickly. I didn't really document all of it. So if that's something you guys are interested in, let me know.